risk management systems are designed to do more than just identify the risk. The system must also be able to quantify the risk in order to predict the impact of the risk on the project. The outcome is therefore a risk that is either acceptable or unacceptable. The acceptance or non-acceptance of the risk is usually dependent on the risk owner. The risk owner must fix the tolerance of the level of the risk. It's possible to identify 3 steps. The first step is to identify the risk. The second step to quantify the risk. And in order to do it, to fix the tolerance of the risk level. The third step is to manage the risk. Well, let's see the flow chart. At the beginning, we have an input. It will means to identify the risk. Then we have the 2 tools, how to quantify the risk, to analyze as a qualitative way or as a quantitative way, in a quantitative way or in a qualitative way. The third step, I mean the output, is to manage the risk. Let's analyze the 3 steps. The first one is to identify the risk. The first step is a brainstorming. As well as possible, the project team must identify all potential risk. We will see later how Alp Transit faced this problem. The risks are then categorized and prioritized. The process of prioritizing helps to manage those risks that are in a focus zone. We will see what means a focus zone is a red zone of our matrix. It's a zone where the risk owner must to handle. Now the big question. Not to be or not to be. The big question is how to analyze the risk. We can analyze the risk in a qualitative way or in a quantitative way. A few examples. For a qualitative analysis, we have the impact matrix, for instance, or the analytical hierarchy process. The analysis with a quantitative way is the expected monetary value with decisional trees or Monte Carlo simulation, for instance. I made 2 examples, the impact matrix and the expected monetary value. Let's see about what they are talking. Qualitative way, impact matrix. Suppose you want to buy a machine useful for the production process. How to make the choice? Suppose we choose a criteria of assessment. For instance, the noise, which causes a machine with the following scale of impact. The choice of the colors shows the risk that we take. For instance, red, a very high risk, yellow, a medium risk, and green, no risk, a free zone. We can see we define here a tolerance level of risk. This is the zone where the risk owner must handle. This is a free zone. Suppose we have 5 degrees of probability of each degree of impact. In our example, in the case of a very high impact, with a medium probability to occur, we are in a red zone. It means the risk owner must handle. He must take some decisions. Let's see another example, but this time a quantitative way to analyze the risk. The expected monetary value. Expected monetary value is a statistical technique in risk management that is used to quantify the risk in order to quantify the contingency reserve, the money who you need to handle the risk. To calculate the expected monetary value of an event, you must have its probability and its impact. Once you get these data, you will multiply the probability with the impact, and the result will be the expected monetary value. The formula is simple: expected monetary value, probability multiplied the impact. Once you calculate the expected monetary value of the project, we'll add this amount to the work package cost estimate and get the project baseline. A simple example, a very simple example. If you have identified a risk with a 30% of probability of occurring, and if its risk occurs, it may cost 50,000 Swiss francs, for instance. Calculate the expected monetary value, simple. Probability 30%, impact 50,000 francs. It means the expected monetary value is 0.3 multiplied 50,000. It means the contingency reserve is 15,000 Swiss francs. This was the two methods you can analyze the risk. The third step was to manage the risk. The risk management is a continuous process, and as such must not only be done at the beginning, but during the whole time of the project. For example, if a project duration was estimated in 3 years, a risk management should be done at least every month. So we handled it in a transit. At each stage of the project's life, the risk will be identified, qualified, and managed by updating records of the risk register. We will see later what we mean with risk register. We need to update the risk register, take related contract decisions, update project management plans, and update project documents. How we handled it in our transit. So we saw two ways. The first way is the expected monetary value, and we are handling with money. I mean with 1 billion, 3 billion, 10 billion. It's a cost to handle it. The second one was a qualitative way. We don't know about how many francs or dollars we are speaking. We know it's a risk or it isn't a risk. How our transit handled this problem. He made a brilliant knowledge of mix. He introduced a classification. We had the risk, we know about probability, we know about lesson learned, impact, we need calculation, we need the expected monetary value. Our transit introduced the classification. As well as possible, the project team identified all the potential risks. The team proceeded by calculating the impact, how many Swiss francs. According to previous experience of seminario works, it was fixed the probability of each risk. And then they processed the impact and the probability in indices. So we had 3 indices, number 1, 2, and 3 for the impact, and 3 indices, 1, 2, and 3 for the probability. They don't talk about francs or percentage, but only 1, 2, and 3. At least our transit carried out the classification without an impact matrix. You remember? Each element of the matrix was calculated like the expected monetary value. It means probability multiplied impact. But now it's the 3 indices, 1, 2, and 3, multiplied the 3 indices, 1, 2, and 3 of the impact. Impact multiplied probability. Furthermore, it was fixed the tolerance of the level risk. So we processed the impact. So we know how many Swiss franc we need for the contingency reserve. We processed the probability. We converted the impact and the probability in indices. How did we done it? The low probability, we fixed 1. The medium probability, we fixed 2, the indices 2. And the large probability, we fixed the indices 3. For the cost, for the impact, we fixed that. For costs lower than 1 million, we fixed the indices 1. For costs between 1 and 10 million, we fixed 2. And for contingency reserve larger than 10 million, we fixed 3. So with these 3 indices, we construct our matrix with the formula of the expected monetary value. So we have here, for instance, 4. Number 4 means 2 for the probability and 2 for the impact. Let's analyze the 3 steps. Our transit carried out 9 risks. The risk named 100, all the risk in connection with the land, or the chance number 1100, all chance we have with the land. Land cheaper as predict. Risk number 200, all chances, all risks in connection with changes of the project. 300, all risk in connection with the project management, and so on. Then we have the under classification, all risk 103.2, for instance, subsistence of land larger than expected. 105, risk of material handling, and so on. So we have a very large risk catalog, and we handled with this risk catalog. Furthermore, we fix the indices. How I said 1, 2, and 3 for the impact, for costs between 1 and 10 million, larger than 10 million, and lower than 10 or 1 million. And the probability 1, 2, and 3 for small probability, in the case of the event maybe occur 2, or a large probability to have the risk 3. Then we built our matrix. In green, the opportunity, the chance, and in red, the risks. How you can see, we have here the tolerance acceptance, the limit. The red zone, the zone in where the risk owner must handle and take decisions. And the free zone, in where the risk owner mustn't handle immediately. In order to manage the risk, our transit updates the following documents: impact matrix, the risk register, potential risk schedule, development of final costs and risk potential. This is an example, a real example. This is a real document of our transit, a real example of an impact matrix. Here you can recognize the risk 211. We said 200, all the risk 200 are all the risk in connection with changes of the project. You can see the symbol, a circle means costs, and the other one, the timeline. Another real example of impact matrix is, for instance, this one. Here you can see the risk 121. It's a risk in connection with the land. And this is a risk in connection with the time. Let's see an example for a risk register. This is a real document of our transit. This is our risk register.